They say bigger is better, but sometimes the smallest machines leave the biggest impressions, especially when they're rugged little German tractors from the 1900s. Today, we're looking at 10 tiny powerhouses that once roamed fields and farmyards, but have since been overshadowed by modern giants. Number 10. Deutz F1M414. Starting off strong with an unmistakable icon of German farm life, the Deutz F1M414 sets the tone for our exploration into compact tractor history. Produced in the mid-1930s through the early 1950s, this diminutive workhorse boasted a modest single-cylinder, water-cooled diesel engine that delivered around 11 horsepower. Humble by today's standards, but more than enough for small-scale tasks back then. The F1M414 quickly gained a reputation for rugged reliability, thanks in part to Deutz's engineering prowess and a design philosophy centered on simplicity. Its small size was a major selling point, enabling farmers with tighter budgets or smaller plots of land to reap the benefits of mechanized labor without having to invest in larger, more expensive equipment. The front end was distinctly shaped, giving onlookers no doubt that this was a product of classic German craftsmanship. Although it wasn't the loudest or the fastest, it was certainly one of the most faithful companions an early 20th century farmer could ask for. Culturally, the F1M414 represented a shift. More smallholder farmers were embracing technology, stepping away from purely manual labor and traditional horse-drawn methods. That alone gave it a shining role in the broader development of European agriculture. Deutz was already a respected name in diesel technology, and this tractor helped solidify that standing. Despite its significance, the F1M414 often remains a footnote in tractor lore, overshadowed by bigger, more powerful models that arrived later. But for those who grew up around them, the sound of its single-cylinder engine and the memory of it rattling across the yard can still spark a grin. Time may have moved on, yet the F1M414 continues to earn quiet admiration from vintage tractor enthusiasts around the globe. Number 9. Fent F15. No conversation about German-made tractors, small or otherwise, would be complete without mentioning Fent. The F15, introduced in the late 1950s, wore the Fent badge proudly while packing a surprising amount of utility into a modest frame. This single-cylinder diesel model generated around 15 horsepower, making it slightly more potent than some of its pint-sized peers. Despite its limited power, the F15 showcased trademark Fent ingenuity, a robust gearbox, dependable construction, and a reputation for durability. Farmers who employed the F15 discovered it was perfect for light to medium tasks, especially on smaller farms that dotted the German countryside. It was also remarkably accessible, thanks to an evolving post-World War II economy that allowed everyday people to invest in mechanized help. For many rural families, this tractor was a gateway to increased productivity, letting them handle plowing, hauling, and harrowing more efficiently than relying solely on manpower or draft animals. One reason the F15 made its mark was Fent's focus on operator comfort. While that term might sound laughable in the context of older tractors, little details like seat cushioning and layout were crucial for farmers who'd spend entire days in the field. The F15's user-friendly design was an early indicator of Fent's eventual evolution into a brand known for advanced features and driver-centric designs. Of course, the F15 might not look like much next to modern behemoths. Its open-air seat, minimalistic control panel, and petite tires have a certain vintage charm, reminding us that simpler solutions once ruled the day. Today, you may find a handful of these relics lovingly restored by collectors who appreciate its role in bringing basic mechanization to small plots. While time marches on, the F15's legacy endures, proof that small, well-built machines can spark big changes in farming communities. Before we roll to the next tractor, do us a solid, smash that like button, and subscribe. Over 98% of you watch silently like it's a stakeout. We see you. Hit the button. We won't tell anyone. Number 8, Lanz Bulldog. Lanz Bulldog is a legendary name in German tractor history, but not all Bulldogs were created equal. While later models became known for their formidable power, the earliest production versions from the 1920s and early 1930s started out with a modest 12-horsepower single-cylinder engine. This smaller Lanz might surprise folks who associate the Bulldog badge with robust, smoke-belching giants. The distinctive Bulldog moniker came from its horizontal hot bulb engine design and the tractor's stout, Bulldog-like appearance. The Lanz Bulldog introduced to farmers a simpler engine mechanism that could run on a variety of low-grade fuels, everything from regular diesel to cheaper oils and kerosene. That flexibility was crucial in an era when fuel availability varied wildly, and cost was always top of mind. Small-scale operations embraced these early Bulldogs because they were straightforward to maintain and often easier on the wallet compared to larger machines. The raucous engine note of a Lanz in motion became an iconic soundtrack across German farmlands, and though later Bulldogs with bigger horsepower figures would steal the spotlight, these early 12-horsepower variants deserve their own place in the annals of farm machinery. Culturally, the Lanz Bulldog series embodied a leap forward in German engineering. These tractors, even the low-horsepower ones, carried a certain prestige. Farmers bragged about their Bulldog's reliability, and local tractor competitions sometimes featured these smaller units pulling beyond what their specs might suggest. Even so, they eventually faded as more technologically advanced, higher-powered models took over. For collectors, finding and preserving an early 12-horsepower Bulldog is like owning a slice of industrial archaeology. They represent the foundational blocks upon which a tractor dynasty was built. Whether you remember their chugging glow plug engines from your childhood or have just discovered them in a museum, these diminutive Bulldogs remain unforgettable. Number 7. Hanamag R12. Among Germany's smaller vintage tractors, the Hanamag R12 holds a quiet, unassuming spot. Launched in the early 1950s, it arrived as part of Hanamag's quest to cater to the growing market of smallhold farmers who needed a dependable tractor without breaking the bank. With roughly 12 horsepower under the hood, the R12 might not have turned heads for raw power, but it stood out for its practicality and user-friendly nature. One of the R12's strengths was its two-cylinder diesel engine, a departure from single-cylinder designs that some of its contemporaries sported. This gave it a smoother operation and a slightly more refined feel compared to other small tractors of the era. The signature Hanamag styling was evident, featuring a simple but robust metal frame and minimal decorative flourishes. This no-frills approach was typical of German utility machines at the time, focusing more on function than flash. The Hanamag brand had already made a name for itself producing steam locomotives and early diesel vehicles, so their foray into the compact tractor segment wasn't surprising. More importantly, the R12 marked a shift towards meeting the everyday demands of small, often family-run farms. Its modest fuel consumption, decent hauling capability for its size, and relative ease of maintenance made it a go-to choice for budget-conscious operators. Though overshadowed by bigger models from Hanamag and competing manufacturers, the R12 left a quiet legacy. Farms that couldn't afford or justify a larger machine found a reliable partner in this little two-cylinder tractor. Over the decades, R12 production numbers remained modest, and as agricultural needs scaled up, these smaller units were frequently replaced and eventually forgotten. Today, a well-restored Hanamag R12 can still spark nostalgic smiles from those who remember its role in shaping post-war German farm life. Number 6. Porsche Diesel Jr. Yes, you read that right. Porsche once made tractors. And among their lineup, the Porsche Diesel Jr. was the smallest, most charming of the bunch. Produced in the 1950s and early 1960s, this compact marvel offered around 14 horsepower from a single-cylinder air-cooled diesel engine. While that horsepower figure might pale next to modern tractors, back then it was a welcome solution for smaller farms in need of a trustworthy, maneuverable machine. Ferdinand Porsche had long been fascinated by diesel engines, and the idea of creating efficient modular tractor designs was part of his broader automotive vision. The Junior's aesthetic was classically Porsche: clean lines, a distinctive red paint job, and an attention to engineering detail that made it stand out. Though overshadowed by the sports cars that would eventually make Porsche a household name, these tractors showcase some of the same design principles: efficient power delivery, innovative cooling solutions, and robust construction. In the fields, the Junior made itself at home, plowing modest patches of land, transporting small loads, and performing general farm duties that had previously demanded larger or more expensive equipment. Its air-cooled diesel engine also made maintenance simpler, an appealing trait for farmers who lacked the resources to keep a complex machine running smoothly. From a cultural standpoint, Porsche's tractor venture adds a curious footnote to agricultural history. Imagine telling someone you drive a Porsche on your farm. They might picture a 911, not a puttering diesel tractor hauling bales of hay. Still, for those who've seen a Porsche Diesel Jr. in person, the brand's engineering DNA is evident. Over time, agriculture marched on toward larger, more powerful rigs, and Porsche's tractor line eventually faded away. Yet the Junior remains a gem among vintage machinery enthusiasts, proof that even a luxury automobile maker can carve out a legacy in the humble world of small-scale farming. Number 5. Iker ED16. Iker may not be as globally recognized as some German brands, but in the mid-20th century, it made waves with tractors like the ED16. Debuting in the late 1930s and extending production into the post-war years, the ED16 delivered around 16 horsepower through a robust air-cooled diesel engine, an Iker hallmark. This system's straightforward design made it easier to service and kept downtime to a minimum, a crucial advantage for farmers who had to make every hour count. Despite being modest in size, the ED16 was built to handle varied tasks, from modest plowing jobs to short-distance hauling. It sported a chunky, no-nonsense exterior that felt distinctly German: solid construction, minimal styling, and an unyielding focus on utility. If you pop the hood, figuratively speaking, you'll see that Iker's engineering approach emphasized reliability and affordability. In the tumultuous period following World War II, that combination struck a chord with many smaller-scale farming communities. The ED16's design also showcased a forward-looking spirit. Iker engineers experimented with innovative features such as integrated hydraulic lifts, which were still a relatively new concept in smaller tractors. This willingness to adopt progressive solutions gave Iker a reputation for punching above its weight class, competing with more established names in the German agricultural market. Though overshadowed in modern times by the major brands that dominated global markets, the ED16 retains a respectable place in vintage machinery circles. It exemplified a time when simpler technology could profoundly boost a farm's productivity without requiring massive capital investment. For farmers in tight-knit rural areas, an ED16 was more than a machine. It represented hope, progress, and a step toward a more efficient future. Today, enthusiasts who restore these little tractors help keep that hopeful spirit alive, ensuring the ED16 isn't forgotten. Number 4, FAR D90. FAR may ring a bell for some old-timers, especially those who remember the brand's haymaking implements. However, FAR also produced tractors, with the D90 being one of its smaller offerings. Emerging in the 1950s, this compact model churned out somewhere between 10 and 12 horsepower, courtesy of a diesel engine that favored efficiency over flash. Though not the smallest on this list, the D90 still ranks among those lesser-known German tractors that time has largely overlooked. The D90's design was squarely rooted in practicality. Sturdy metal fenders, straightforward control layouts, and an engine compartment that allowed for relatively easy access. Farmers looking for a reliable multi-purpose machine found it adequate for chores like light tillage, transporting goods, and powering small attachments. At a time when many families were modernizing their operations, this level of versatility made the D90 an attractive purchase. Culturally, FAR's long-standing expertise in hay equipment sometimes overshadowed its tractor line. Nevertheless, the D90 played its part in broadening FAR's reputation beyond balers and mowers. This tractor helped farmers see FAR as a full-range agricultural equipment supplier, bridging the gap between smaller family farms and the bigger industrial outfits that demanded higher horsepower. As German agriculture modernized through the 1960s, many D90 units were traded in for heavier tractors or phased out entirely. Collectors today might stumble upon a D90 rusting away in a shed or barn waiting for a dedicated enthusiast to restore it to its former glory. For those who take on such a project, it's a chance to preserve a piece of mid-century farm life, a time when you didn't need a monster machine to get the job done. In a world dominated by giant modern tractors, the humble FAR D90 stands as a testament to a more understated era of agricultural machinery. Number 3, Hila D15. The Hila brand may not have the name recognition of Fent or Deutz, but their D15 tractor from the 1950s carved a cozy niche among smallholders across Germany. True to its name, the D15 provided around 14 to 15 horsepower, an unassuming figure that still delivered respectable performance for day-to-day farm tasks. In a period marked by post-war rebuilding and limited resources, the D15's economical engine and straightforward mechanics found a warm welcome among frugal farmers. Hila, a shortening of Heidelberger Lanz, originated as a joint venture related to the famed Lanz company, but eventually branched out into its own tractor designs. The D15 stands out with its compact silhouette and simplistic dash, an embodiment of German efficiency at the time. Start it up and you'd hear the characteristic clatter of a single-cylinder diesel engine. There were few frills, which was precisely the point. The D15 was about function over flair. Small fields and modest livestock operations benefited from the D15's agility. It could navigate tighter spaces than bigger tractors, making it adept at tasks like working orchards or maneuvering in livestock barns. For many family-run farms that had a handful of acres rather than hundreds, investing in a behemoth didn't make sense. The D15 filled that gap beautifully. Though overshadowed by better-known brands and more powerful models, the Hila D15 holds a special place in the tapestry of mid-century German agriculture. Today, only a sparse number of them remain, often spotted at vintage tractor shows where enthusiasts gather to celebrate machines from a bygone era. Many folks have never heard of Hila, but a quick glance at a restored D15 can make them do a double take. It might not be the flashiest name in the barn, but it's a gem for those who appreciate small, hard-working tractors. Number 2, Schlutoter DS15. Schlutoter is often associated with brawny, high-horsepower machines, but the brand dipped into smaller models too. The DS15 from the late 1950s is a lesser-known gem in Schluter's lineup. Sporting a single-cylinder diesel engine of around 15 horsepower, it was definitely on the smaller side compared to the more muscular Schluter tractors that came later. This model served as an accessible entry point for farmers wanting Schluter's engineering finesse without the cost or size of their flagship machines. Despite its smaller footprint, the DS15 was well built, showcasing Schluter's reputation for solid construction. Its sturdy frame and intuitive layout made it a dependable companion for a range of light farm duties, everything from plowing small vegetable patches to hauling moderate loads of feed or produce. The brand's emphasis on quality components meant the DS15 could hold its own against more established competitors in the lower horsepower arena. In cultural terms, Schluter carved its legacy in Germany with the robust machines often seen in larger-scale operations or challenging terrains. Seeing a DS15, then, might catch you off guard. Wait, Schluter made something this small? Yet that's part of its charm. It's a reminder that even performance-oriented brands recognize the importance of serving smaller farms. And in an era rebuilding from wartime damage, reliable, compact tractors were in high demand. Like many on this list, the DS15 gradually faded into the background as agriculture scaled up and horsepower demand soared. However, a few of these pint-sized Schluters still grace vintage tractor shows, drawing smiles from onlookers who are more familiar with the brand's big brutes. For those in the know, the DS15 is a testament to Schluter's engineering prowess condensed into a modest package, a scrappy little worker that once did its fair share of heavy lifting on small German plots. Number 1. Bungart's T5. Rounding out our list of lesser-remembered German compacts is the Bungart's T5. Bungarts might not be a household name, but in the 1950s and 1960s, they made waves with small, versatile tractors and motor cultivators suited for market gardens and small-scale farms. The T5, offering around 14 horsepower, was tailor-made for tight spaces. Think narrow rows of crops or hilly terrains where agility trumped brute force. One of the T5's standout features was its adaptable design, allowing for different wheel configurations and attachments that turned it into something of a Swiss Army knife for agricultural tasks. Whether you needed to plow, cultivate, or pull a lightweight trailer, the T5 could do it. Bungart specifically targeted small-scale operators who wanted more than just a simple tractor. They wanted a machine that could handle multiple chores without requiring an arsenal of equipment. The T5's construction was unembellished, showcasing a typical 1950s tractor aesthetic with simple lines and an unassuming color scheme. But underneath that modest exterior was a decently engineered powertrain, built to last. Maintenance was straightforward, which appealed to farmers working on shoestring budgets. If something broke, you could often fix it yourself with basic tools and a bit of know-how. Despite its versatility and reliability, Bungart's remained a niche player. Large brands with greater production capacity overshadowed their efforts. As Germany's agricultural sector consolidated into fewer larger farms, small machines like the T5 weren't as widely sought. That shift in the market eventually led to Bungart's obscurity. Still, for collectors and enthusiasts, the T5 stands out as an emblem of an era when small, highly adaptable tractors were a lifeline for family-owned farms and specialty operations. In that sense, it perfectly captures the spirit of our list. A small German tractor that time may have largely forgotten, but which still sparks admiration in vintage circles. From the humble Deutz F1M414 to the nimble Bungart's T5, these compact German tractors once played starring roles on countless small farms. Though large, high-horsepower machines eventually took center stage, the stories of these underdogs remain a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. By celebrating their histories, we keep alive the memory of a simpler era when resourcefulness often mattered more than raw muscle. If you've enjoyed this stroll down memory lane, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Join us for more captivating tales of vintage machines and the timeless spirit they represent.